know, Apple has made some questionable decisions when it comes to some of their products, pricing, or even features, but they were certainly right with one thing. The MacBook Neo is a new MacBook at a surprising price. $600, $500 if you're a student, for a MacBook is cheap. And with it seemingly about to be a lot of people's first MacBook purchase ever, I decided to buy one. But I feel like what a lot of people are missing is it's still $600, which for a MacBook is cheap, but by no means is it a small purchase. So I'm gonna take a look at the Neo, try it out, run some realistic tests on it, then share what I think really sets it apart, not just from Windows alternatives, but also just from other MacBooks. I feel like I've been unboxing some more things lately, but I promise you, it is amazing every time. Pull this out here. Wow, immediately, this thing feels nice. Let's pull that off. Now, I don't have the iPhone Pro, but I feel like this would match the 17 Pro in that blue colorway pretty well. Dude, the indigo is perfect. I feel like everyone else opted for the urine yellow color. Even though it is missing some features that I would love to see, as I'll get into, it has all of the same core principles that make a MacBook, including good build quality, but it has a headphone jack in an interesting place and 2 USB-C ports, and the speakers are on the sides here instead of the top, which is different, but I'm excited to give them a try. And even though it is a budget laptop, it does come with a braided USB-C cable and the charger block, so that is good to see. Now, it is only 20 watts, which is kind of slow, but the MacBook Neo caps the charging at around 30 watts anyways, probably because it's a smaller battery. Like, for comparison, a 16-inch MacBook Pro's battery is just under 3 times as big as the MacBook Neo's, but I actually think that's gonna be fine because, getting into the specs here, the Neo runs off an iPhone chip, the A18 Pro. That was in like the iPhone 16 Pro. I was a bit skeptical of that at first, but I actually can't wait to put that to the test, not just in terms of power, but also efficiency when it comes to battery life. And this is the lowest, cheapest model, so no Touch ID, 256 gigs of storage, and yes, 8 gigabytes of RAM. Now, can I open it with one hand, the MacBook Classic? Yes. Peel that off. I think one of the most important parts of build quality is the hinge itself. I think it was a Lenovo laptop that costed $750, and because I opened it from not the perfect center, the hinge just blew clean off. I mean, to be fair, it is just an isolated instance. They did fix it for free, but I really think you're gonna have to try hard to get that to happen here. My immediate impression is it's a MacBook. I think it's mostly selling the software of macOS. Like, at least in the US, iPhones make up about 60% of the market, but MacBooks only make up about 20%. So having a laptop that's the same price as your cheapest iPhone while working seamlessly between all of your other Apple devices just makes sense, and it opens the door to so many more people. It's just now the default Apple laptop. It's just for the regular non-power user, someone like a student. I also think because of that, this is now the first choice in front of the Air for a lot of people, because people didn't buy the MacBook Air because it was the Air. They bought it because it was the cheapest MacBook. It's not only no longer the cheapest, it's also close to 2 times the price of the Neo. So between that and also just the marketing for the Neo, showing how you can use something like Microsoft Office apps on Mac, it's clear Apple is trying to take over. And with the Neo having macOS, that's also why I think 8 gigabytes is enough for this laptop and for the audience that this laptop targets. Since all of the hardware and software are both made by Apple, objectively, it is far more optimized than any Windows laptop. And I'm also hot off using an M1 Air with 8 gigabytes of RAM from a video. That thing is incredibly good. Now, the trackpad is actually a bit different. It's one that like actually physically clicks down, and I might be crazy, but that is a satisfying click. I might actually like that more. And it doesn't matter where on the trackpad you click, it all seems to work just the same, which I love to see. I'm actually a big trackpad kind of guy, kind of ever since I started using MacBooks. And again, this is powered by an iPhone chip, and I, and probably a lot of other people, just kind of wrote it off as, oh, it just won't be that powerful. Boy, I was not familiar with Apple's game. Apparently, it's a little bit better than the original M1 chip, and that also means that it's very close, if not a little better than the most powerful i9 Intel MacBook to ever exist. Now I'm actually going to use it over the weekend for the next few days, and I'll go over some of the pros and maybe more importantly cons that I happen to notice. So it's been about 4 days now since I unboxed and actually started to use the MacBook Neo. So I want to go over the reality of using it in both the good and bad ways, and also why I think it's not just for light users or students. So far, I've personally only used it for planning videos and an app called Craft, some Google Doc and email work, and most productive of all, watching YouTube. There's actually a few settings I changed that really made a pretty big difference. The first was changing the display to more space. It pretty much scales down everything a little bit, but I feel like it really opens up a 13-inch display. And then for the trackpad, I turned on tap to click, so you don't actually have to physically click down on it. And I've actually come to the conclusion that I prefer the way this trackpad is. Something about having a physical click down input, it just feels more almost confident, but it is noticeably louder. My only concern is because it does have physical moving parts, it's not gonna like ever wear out or get stuck long term. And the keyboard is like any other MacBook. I love it, I think it's great. Again, my only concern is because it's lighter colored keys, is that gonna get nasty stains all over it long term? I don't know. The version of the Neo I have has the lock screen button and not Touch ID. And I guess I didn't realize how much faster it is just to reach over and sign in like that instead of typing in your password every time. That did get a little bit annoying, but I have an Apple Watch and you can actually set it to automatically unlock your MacBook, so that's been nice. But I understand not everyone has an Apple Watch and not everyone even wants an Apple Watch. So I think that makes that $100 upgrade to not only double your storage, but get the Touch ID potentially well worth it. And even though it's not necessary and it's kind of a big miss in my opinion, I went over to try to turn on the backlit keyboard and remembered that there is no backlit keyboard. For a laptop that's set to be in a bunch of different environments, including potentially dark ones, I feel like seeing what you're typing is pretty important. And out of all of the lacking features of this, that might be one of the most noticeable ones to the consumers of this product. Now, like I said before though, I think the Neo is selling a phone with macOS in laptop form, and with a phone chip being in this form factor with macOS, I think it really blows the gate wide open for what you can actually do with it now. But of course, a MacBook at this price point means there are sacrifices. I think they're mild inconveniences, not deal breakers, but that's actually up to you to decide. For example, you can only connect one display up to 4K and 60 Hertz, but as you can see, it can fill up this whole 34-inch ultra-wide with no issues with scaling or resolution at all. But for the average Neo user, I doubt you're gonna need two displays. In fact, I bet you're probably only gonna be using the built-in one, which is not Apple's best display ever. Like if I put it next to the M1 Airs and also my MacBook Pros in a darker environment, it's definitely not as deep or rich looking, but it doesn't have to be. But I mean, this looks plenty good. I mean, it gets bright enough where I have no problems with it. Even next to a window, I've been fine. Now, a huge topic point here that is a pretty big deal for laptop users and also is where it shows a big difference compared to some of those Windows alternatives is battery life. Now, first of all, why in the world is the charger cable so short compared to like the MagSafe chargers? I mean, you can get a longer, good quality USB-C cable for pretty cheap, but if you're like plugging this into the back of a classroom, there's no way this is gonna reach while still being able to use the laptop. And I do feel like generally MagSafe is a little bit less fragile than USB-C. It's just so easy to plug it in or unplug it. But people are always charging MacBooks with USB-C anyways, and it is a much more diverse cable. Like you can use the same cable to charge your iPhone and the MacBook Neo. But after using it and having the battery drop to 15%, I plugged it in with the not super fast charger, but it took 2 hours and 20 minutes to charge it fully. So it's not the fastest, but it's not unmanageable. Now to test the battery life itself, I loaded up a 3-hour 4K YouTube video on about 50% brightness, and after letting it play out fully, the battery dropped down 24%, which on a full charge would equal out to about 12 hours of use. And that was on Google Chrome, so I did the same thing on Safari, starting at 70% battery to see if there was any differences. But 3 hours later, it dropped 25% down to 45%, so it's essentially the exact same. And finally, I spent another 3 hours in the app Craft planning out some future videos, and that drained the battery down about 30%.
I think it's safe to say that you will easily get a real 10 hours of battery life on this.
As far as boot up speeds compared to the M1 Air and M4 Max, they're all basically the same. It will not make a difference in your life.
But what I think is the biggest cripple on this device in general are the ports. They kind of do suck, but I'm not sure most people will even realize it. The USB-C in the back is USB 3, that's average. The USB in the front is USB 2. My 2012 MacBook from 14 years ago has faster ports than that.
Although I think it'll be pretty rare that you need both ports to transfer files. To show how significant the difference is, for just under 30 gigabytes of files, it took 33 seconds on the USB 3 port, and on the USB 2, not only did it give you a warning that it's slow, it took over 12 minutes. That's just over 20 times longer.
Now again, it does only have 256 gigs, so you really can't transfer that much, but for a computer that'll probably mostly be used in the cloud with things like Google Drive, Docs, emails, and even just web-based applications, it's fine. If you think you'll need more and you can afford it, I would not hesitate paying the extra $100 to get double the storage, especially because this is a device that is set up to last you a long time if you take care of it. So do as much as you can to make it as convenient as possible. But for the ports, you can charge with either of them and it'll charge at the exact same speed. If you're going to be transferring files or connecting a monitor, definitely stick to the back one. And I've seen other people do this, but I want to do it for myself. I'm going to take all of the apps I have, double click, and open them all. 58 apps are opening as we speak. Look at the dock, that's getting crazy. A little bit of lag there. That's the first time this lagged though. I think that's actually everything. So if I swipe out here, that is insane. And I'm screen recording on this MacBook. And with all that pulled up, let me just scroll through my Spotify playlist here. There's a little bit of a delay playing and pausing, but like, I really hope you don't normally operate with 58 apps open while screen recording. I just force quit all the apps to quickly close them, and I also force quit the screen recording, so there goes that.
I also wanted to see how many tabs I could open in both Chrome and Safari, and I'm shocked that it was basically the same, getting laggy around 60 real websites being open. Again, also shocked that you can have 60 websites open on 8 gigabytes of RAM. But it's important to mention Apple uses swap memory, which uses a part of your SSD as RAM temporarily. And in this case, well, it was using more gigabytes of my SSD for swap memory than I had actual RAM, essentially operating as a laptop with 16 gigs of RAM. So to make sure this always works well, it's a good idea to make sure your storage isn't completely full. And yet another good reason to potentially get that upgrade.
And again, when it's possible, close apps that you're not using and you're going to be perfectly fine.
Something that they didn't skimp on is the webcam. This is a full 1080p, and I'm sure it's going to get plenty of use. And here's how that compares to the M1 Air's webcam. And then, of course, also how it compares to my M4 MacBook.
And I've pretty much only used the Neo with AirPods, which is a great combo, by the way, but I haven't had a chance to try the side speakers yet, so I'm curious too, and here's a little speaker test against my other MacBooks.
Okay, after hearing them all sound by side, they all sound good, but I think the Air sounds a little bit better than the Neo. The Neo has a little bit more bass, it's just less clear, probably because the sound's shooting out against the table, not up towards my ears. And to absolutely no one's surprise, the 16-inch MacBook sounds best.
But even with all of those benefits and all of those downsides, that's
kind of exactly what makes Apple different. It might not always be the best specs or the top of the line performance or like the newest breaking edge technology, but you know exactly what you are getting. Other computers might have an OLED 120 Hz display, but is the hinge that it's on gonna blow off or not? Other laptops might have a backlit keyboard, but is it gonna be awful to type on? It might have 16 gigabytes of RAM, but when it comes to working with Windows, is it gonna be as smooth? You just don't have to second guess if the basic features of a laptop are gonna work or not. So who is the MacBook Neo worth it to? Like I said, I don't think it's just for light users. I think it's just for light use. What I mean by that is if you have something like a Mac Studio or Mac Mini even, and you use it for higher powered tasks like video editing, photo editing, 3D animation, things like that, and you're looking for a portable Apple laptop that'll just sync with everything, that doesn't need to be as capable, I mean, this is the perfect option because just how the M1 chip was a generational leap in terms of computing power for Apple, I think the Neo is a generational leap in terms of computing accessibility. This is a product that's kind of unlike Apple to make, a great budget and apparently repairable product, but I would honestly go as far as saying this is probably the most in-touch device Apple has launched, at least in a very long time. I got a few other videos related to the Neo coming, so if you're interested in that, feel free to subscribe, but thank you for watching.